How 5 simple journaling habits can revolutionize your daily life. Imagine waking up tomorrow and feeling an unshakable clarity about your day. Not just about what you need to do, but why you're doing it. Picture navigating the chaos of life with a calm certainty, as if every storm were merely a breeze. Could something as simple as journaling unlock that power for you? I'll tell you a story. It starts not in a modern city, but in an ancient battlefield. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, found himself surrounded by the pressures of war, politics, and disease. Yet every night, he would sit under the dim flicker of a candle and write in his journal. He wasn't writing for anyone else. In fact, his writings were never meant to be read by others. He was writing to clarify his own thoughts, to ground himself in principles that would guide him, and to reflect on the day without judgment or distraction. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened to your own thoughts? Not the thoughts driven by social media, to-do lists, or endless noise, but the whispers of your innermost self. Have you ever wondered what might happen if you could make space for that voice every day? The first habit is deceptively simple: writing your intention for the day every morning. When I started doing this, I thought it would be mundane. But here's the truth. We often sleepwalk through life, reacting to what comes at us instead of consciously choosing how to engage with it. Writing down a single intention, a guiding principle or goal for the day, transforms your actions from reflex to purpose. Let me share a moment from my life. One morning, I wrote, "Today, I will practice patience in all interactions." That day, I was stuck in traffic, late for a meeting, and seething with frustration. Then, I remembered my intention. I breathed. I laughed at the irony of life testing me. And instead of spiraling into anger, I stayed calm. That single choice reshaped not only my day, but also how I saw myself. But here's the catch. Intentions aren't magic. They don't change the world around you, they change you. And when you change, the world responds. So, what will your intention be tomorrow? The second habit is equally profound: gratitude journaling. You've probably heard this advice before, but let me ask you this. Do you really understand what gratitude does to your mind? Most of us focus on what's wrong in our lives. It's human nature. It's how we survive. But when you write down 3 things you're grateful for, you force your brain to focus on abundance instead of lack. I once worked with someone who was deeply unhappy. Every day, they wrote down their complaints, their struggles, their frustrations. I suggested a change. Before writing anything else, list 3 things that brought them joy, no matter how small. At first, they resisted, but after a week, their entries shifted. Instead of despair, there was lightness. Instead of anger, there was curiosity. Their life didn't change overnight, but their perspective did, and that's where all change begins. So, let me challenge you. What are 3 things you can be grateful for right now? Pause this video and write them down. Seriously, I'll wait. The third habit is one of reflection. Writing down one lesson learned each day. Marcus Aurelius did this constantly. His meditations are filled with observations about human nature, virtue, and the art of living well. He wasn't just recording events, he was extracting wisdom. Why does this matter? Because life teaches us lessons every day, but we rarely pause to capture them. Without reflection, those lessons slip away, like water through our fingers. But when you write them down, they become part of you. Here's a lesson I learned recently. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. It seems simple, doesn't it? But writing it down made it real for me. It reminded me, day after day, to prioritize peace over pride. Now, think about your own life. What lesson did today teach you? Maybe it's about resilience. Maybe it's about patience. Maybe it's about letting go. Whatever it is, write it down. Before we move on, I want to leave you with a question. If your journal could speak back to you in 10 years, what would you want it to say? The Inner Architect: How Journaling Shapes Your Life Without You Realizing It. Have you ever wondered who you are when no one is watching? What defines you, not the roles you play, the people you know, or the work you do, but the person you are when all the noise fades. Journaling doesn't just reflect this inner self, it helps shape it. When you write, you become an architect of your own identity. You lay the foundation of who you want to be, brick by brick, thought by thought. But here's the paradox: most of the time, you won't even realize it's happening. Let me explain through the fourth journaling habit, stream of consciousness writing. This is where you let your pen flow without judgment or structure. First, feels chaotic. Thoughts tumble out, unfiltered, messy, and raw. But hidden in that chaos is something extraordinary, your unvarnished truth. I remember the first time I tried this. I wrote about frustrations I didn't even know I had, fears I thought I'd buried, and dreams I was too afraid to admit to myself. By the end, I felt like I had excavated a part of my soul. What I found wasn't always comfortable, but it was real, and in that reality, there was power. Here's the beauty of stream of consciousness journaling. It teaches you that you don't have to be your thoughts. You can observe them, challenge them, and change them. When you pour your mind onto paper, you create a safe distance between who you are and what you think. So, let me ask you, if you could sit down with your thoughts as if they were a stranger, what would you discover? The fifth habit may surprise you. Writing as if you were your future self. Think about this for a moment. Imagine yourself 5 years from now, living the life you dream of. How would that version of you speak? What wisdom would they offer? What advice would they give to the version of you sitting here today? When I first tried this, felt strange. I wrote letters to myself from the future, describing how I overcame challenges I hadn't yet faced. But something remarkable happened. Those letters became a guide, a map, a reminder of who I wanted to become. They helped me make choices aligned with that vision. There's a psychological principle at play here. When you visualize a future self, your brain begins to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Writing it down solidifies that bridge. Now, take a moment and imagine your future self. What would they tell you about the decision you're struggling with right now? What would they say about the life you're building? But journaling isn't just about shaping the future. It's about healing the past. Through reflection, you can rewrite the narratives that hold you back. You can confront fears, forgive mistakes, and find meaning in experiences that once felt senseless. Let me share an example. I once struggled with a failure that haunted me. No matter what I did, it replayed in my mind like a broken record. One day, I decided to write about it. Not just what happened, but how it made me feel, what I learned, and how it shaped me. In the process, I realized something profound. Failure wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of growth. By putting it into words, I reclaimed it, and in doing so, I transformed it from a weight that held me down into a lesson that lifted me up. Here's the question I leave you with. What story from your past are you still carrying? And what would happen if you rewrote it? Not as a tale of defeat, but as one of resilience? Journaling has a way of sneaking up on you. You may not notice the changes day by day, but over weeks and months, you'll find yourself thinking differently, acting differently, and feeling differently. It's like planting a seed. First, there's nothing to see, but underground, something is stirring. When you look back at your journal months later, you'll see not just words, but the evolution of a person. You'll see how your fears gave way to courage, how your doubts became clarity, and how your scattered thoughts became a vision. But here's the truth. This isn't just about you. When you become more grounded, intentional, and self-aware, it ripples outward. You show up differently in your relationships, your work, and your community. So, let me leave you with a thought. What if the simple act of journaling wasn't just a tool for personal growth, but a way to change the world around you? The ripple effect. How journaling transforms not just you, but everyone you touch. Have you ever noticed how a single drop of water creates ripples that expand outward, touching everything in their path? Your thoughts, your actions, your presence, they're like that drop. And when you change your inner world, those ripples inevitably affect the outer one. Journaling isn't just about personal transformation. It's about how that transformation reshapes your relationships, your decisions, and even your community. Let me show you how. When you journal consistently, you start to understand yourself in ways that few people ever do. You recognize your triggers, your strengths, and your blind spots. You see patterns in your behavior and thoughts that were invisible before. And when you bring that awareness into your interactions, everything changes. Think about this. How often do we misunderstand others because we're projecting our fears, insecurities, or assumptions onto them? Journaling helps you clear those mental filters. It's like cleaning a dusty lens suddenly. You see people as they truly are, not as reflections of your inner turmoil. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, struggling with a strained relationship with his sibling, started journaling about his feelings. First, his entries were filled with frustration and blame. But as he continued, he began to see his siblings' perspective, the pressures they faced, the struggles they never voiced. Writing it down allowed him to step outside himself and into their shoes. That simple act of empathy transformed their relationship. So here's a question for you. What relationship in your life could be healed if you truly saw the other person? Not through your biases, but through clarity and compassion. But the ripple effect doesn't stop at relationships. It extends to your decisions, too. When you journal, you develop a habit of intentionality. You pause to reflect before acting, ensuring that your choices align with your values and goals. Here's an example. A young entrepreneur I know felt overwhelmed by the daily demands of running a business. Decisions were rushed, often based on urgency rather than strategy. I suggested a simple habit. At the end of each day, write down one decision they made and evaluate it. Over time, they began to notice patterns, choices that worked, choices that didn't, and why. That clarity empowered them to make better decisions, not just for their business but for their life. Now, think about your own life. What's one decision you've been avoiding or rushing through? What might happen if you took the time to reflect on it deeply? Journaling also transforms how you face challenges. When you've built a habit of self-awareness and intentionality, you approach problems with a mindset of curiosity rather than fear. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. I once heard a story about a surgeon who kept a journal during one of the most stressful periods of his life. Every night, he would write about the surgeries he performed, not just the technical aspects, but his emotions, doubts, and moments of triumph. He said it was like having a conversation with his future self, preparing him for the challenges ahead. Years later, he credited that journal with helping him navigate not only his career but also his personal life with grace and resilience. Let me ask you, when was the last time you faced a challenge and paused to ask, what can I learn from this? What if journaling became your way of turning every obstacle into an opportunity for growth? Finally, journaling creates a legacy. Long after the pen leaves the page, your words remain. They become a record of your journey, a testament to who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. Imagine this: one day, someone you love, perhaps a child, partner, or even a stranger, picks up your journal. They read your thoughts, your struggles, your triumphs, and in those pages, they find guidance, inspiration, and connection. A mentor of mine once said, "Journaling is the act of planting seeds in a garden you may never see." Those seeds aren't just for you. They're for everyone your life touches. So, here's my final question for you. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Journaling isn't just about putting words on paper. It's about creating a life worth writing about. A life of clarity, intention, and connection. It's about recognizing that the ripples you create today will shape the world tomorrow. As we close this video, let me leave you with one final thought. The pen is in your hand, the page is blank, and the story is yours to write. What will you begin today?